My name's Aletheia Shin. I've been living in Baltimore. This is my 4th year. I first came through a volunteer corps called the Lutheran Volunteer Corps, and I came back for grad school. And now I'm here working on projects as an artist, but just working and producing my work. I've was born in Canada. Lived half my life in Korea, half my life in the U.S., mostly because of my father's studies. But I spent most of my youth in Korea and my older college and grad school studies in Baltimore. So for this project called Coincide, Spaces of Coexistence and Identity, I came up with the project in the process of just reflecting a lot about Baltimore and the recent uprising. And most of my thesis work was actually about the Korean community in Baltimore, and that came about because as a student studying community arts, we learned a lot about the history and power dynamics and racial dynamics in the city. And for me, as a international student and who lived most of her life in the U.S., I never really was confronted or asked to think about what it means for me to be living in the U.S. and what type of role or contributions I can make or do make by just being in this space together. And but studying community arts and working and as a student going into communities and doing art and sharing art, I was really faced with a lot of questions. What does it mean as an artist to work with a community and do projects with a community? And in that process also, I was learning all the history and perspectives we were learning about Baltimore. It was very black and white. So as a Asian person, I was really curious where I stood or what the narrative was about people like me, and that's how I was led to. I found out I noticed the Asian people in the city are mostly people in corner stores and public markets, and so that's what my thesis was about, kind of exploring that narrative and history. So I worked with Korean seniors in this area about their history and stories. And then while I was doing that, the uprising happened, and I was connected and kind of collaborating with the mayor's office of immigrant and multicultural affairs. And they started doing trying to do a lot of outreach for Korean business owners, and that's in that time of volunteering for them and just being around, seeing and helping out in their outreach. I've witnessed a lot of the Korean business owners who were affected from the uprising, and just kind of the not divide but lack of community or relationships between Korean communities and the greater community. And I think it led me to a lot of thinking of the need to have our stories heard as a Korean community, but also this consciousness or awareness about what does it mean to live together, and how I just realized there was a great need to just produce as an artist of that narratives aren't just one. There's not just one or two. There's many, and so I've just kind of taken on this desire or kind of path, or I just found the need that there is need to just create and be one of the producers of those narratives that's not being heard. And then in that process, I've just realized that all these spaces, we're actually not we talk about divide and segregation, or how our communities are divided, and I think it's true, but but at the same time, I saw a lot of places where the different communities of colors were in the same space, and that was public markets where food brought a lot of different people from different class, different race. There's definitely different hierarchies within that culture where, like, public markets, there's Korean merchants in Black communities, and consumer of the merchants tend to be Black, and then the Korean merchants tend to hire Latino workers. There's kind of that theme that I've witnessed, but nonetheless, people were existing in the same place. So I thought that was just an interesting way to talk about how we are connected to each other, and there is a need to kind of critically look at it, but also that is a place where relationships are made that really that is something that is needed, in terms of it's places where people gather and have conversations and opportunities to get to know each other. So I just wanted to kind of raise awareness about that how we are connected to each other, and that's how the exhibit kind of concept came about thinking about coexistence and places that we live together. And that I just knew, I guess around me there are also friends who are artists who I've noticed that we're doing similar work and are thinking, have been aware of this idea that, or just the importance of solidarity, or importance of recognizing that we are connected in one way or another. And so that's how I just kind of decided it's time, maybe an opportunity to do this. And so I've been looking for a place in Station North, mainly because Station North has a history of being a Koreatown. That was where my personal interest was coming from. And I was just looking around the stores and spaces around here, and that's when the Harriet Tubman Solidarity Center put up their sign, and that's so the title of the center really is what drew me, the word solidarity, and then so I came in and asked what people did here, and for me it was just, I felt like the concept of the exhibit and what the people do here aligned in terms of standing up for each other, or just being among one another and creating community that is just diverse in every way. So I've talked to Sharon and a couple of times, came to meetings, and they were very receptive to the idea, and I'm very thankful for that. And yeah, so that's how the exhibition space came about, and aligning, because I think I think the connection is very important between what's the art and real life and the accessibility, and what the power or momentum that can be created when art intersects with what's existing in the community. So that's how I got to do the exhibit here.